The Franck Areal is basically a mission to change the world.
One of my first jobs was at a food bank in South Carolina, and I witnessed firsthand just the amount of food waste that was being generated that the food bank couldn't even handle. And we also went out to families that were generational poverty, struggling to find their next meal, and I saw this huge disconnect of managing these resources, and I thought, where are we going to find money for these kinds of projects?
Then we have a similar problem.
Welcome to our Circularity talk. We're here today in Basel and we're going to learn about how three siblings came up with the idea to buy an old, unused industrial site, to transform it into a lighthouse project, a circular economy lighthouse project, and then to open it up to the public. So thanks to you, Gabriel Eckenstein, you're from the Eckenstein-Geigy Foundation here in Basel. And thanks also, you came all the way from America, from Texas, Chris Moken from Circular San Antonio in Texas in the US.
Yes, thank you for having us.
We're here at the Franck Areal in Basel, and we co-created this event together with BaselCircular. It's actually two initiatives that you launched, co-created. So can you briefly tell us, what is the Franck Areal and what is BaselCircular?
The Franck Areal is basically a mission to change the world. Hopefully.
I like that.
Now, we as a family took on the initiative that we basically decided to invest in mission statements. Mm-hmm. Basically, we want to change the world, make it a more acceptable world, a better world for our next generations. So we put our assets in for that cause.
Yeah.
So focusing, what should we do?
Yeah.
And therefore we bought this piece of land and wanted to implement the circular initiative in Basel and beyond, because circularity is not a regional thing, it's a global thing. And it goes way beyond just recycling. It goes into the production process, goes into design, it goes into the whole life cycle of products and to preserve our resources.
Yeah.
And if I say we as a family, that's the three of us. It's my sister and my brother, myself, and actually also our next generation are onboarded on that. They agree to follow us on that journey.
Yeah.
And we hope we can change something.
I actually feel you changed a lot already, and also that's the reason that we're also here to learn from that. Because, you came all the way, Chris, from Texas.
That's correct.
And I can honestly say Texas keeps surprising me, for us, Texas is more like oil, the carbon heavy industry. But it also is a large wind industry, T. Boone Pickens was one of the drivers there. And now Elon Musk, is setting up shop with Tesla big time in Texas, and probably Texas actually is gonna be bigger eventually than California, like economic wise. Yeah. And you created Circular San Antonio in Texas. So what was your vision, or how did you come up with that?
Yeah, so the story goes all the way back to when I got out of college. I didn't quite know what I wanted to do in the world, and one of my first jobs was at a food bank in South Carolina. And I witnessed firsthand just the amount of food waste that was being generated that the food bank couldn't even handle. And we also went out to families that were generational poverty, struggling to find their next meal. And I saw this huge disconnect of managing these resources. And I thought, this is wrong and we need to change this. And so that was the first time I got really passionate. And ever since I've been working in the recycling industry in the US for over 10 years. But even then saw a lot of the shortcomings of the recycling industry, and eventually learned about circular economy and ended up in San Antonio, Texas, I think it's almost the 7th largest city in the US now, and started looking around asking, well, okay, if we're gonna grow the circular economy, who's doing it locally, where should we go? There was no entity kind of talking about it, no one trying to bring together the stakeholders. The government wasn't actively pushing for it, the businesses weren't actively pushing for it, universities really weren't collaborating. So I decided to work with one of my colleagues at the city. Her name is Stephanie Phillips. She works in the Office of Historic Preservation and actually works on the deconstruction of old buildings. So we're the largest city in the US with a deconstruction ordinance.
Okay.
So she and I shared a passion, and we realized, well, let's create a nonprofit that will serve as this collaborative, neutral platform where we can bring together these key stakeholders, the universities, the for-profits, even the nonprofits, the local foundations, and how can we get all these stakeholders to align on accelerating circularity in a few key industries and areas? Because I'm a personal believer that circular economy is the economy of the future. And even though San Antonio is very diverse and one of the most diverse economic cities in the world, I realize that we really need to catch up because we still just landfill so much, and there's a missing huge economic opportunity. We need to convince the stakeholders of that economic opportunity and sell that vision. And we believe that San Antonio can be a leader. And so we decided to create the nonprofit to push forward all those goals.
Yeah, I like that a lot, that Texas meets Basel, we can say. And you, beside, as you said, the piece of land, it's really this Franck Areal, the industrial site. You also created an organization called BaselCircular. So what is the idea behind BaselCircular?
We wanted to do something in the circularity field ourselves initially, and then realizing we cannot do it alone. We need support by the government. And then, lucky for us, there was a change in government in Basel, and we have some very tight zero goals we want to achieve by 2037. And that's part of the whole thing, that they basically then asked us. So the city asked us, would you be in for a joint initiative, so for a public-private partnership? And I said, sure. That needed no thinking, because I was hoping that the state would onboard on our system, on our idea, which was kind of ready before that, but I didn't know how to achieve it or how to pursue it, because it was just a brainchild. And then they came with a pragmatic approach and said, we are in.
Oh, that's really interesting. So actually you had, as a family, the private initiative, but you didn't know at the time that actually the public entity, the canton of Basel City, is working on this as well. So the timing, it came from.
It was a perfect timing. It was a perfect timing
wow.
Because we basically wanted to go ahead with buying this piece of land. We know we wanted to do that, and the next steps would have followed. And then the city basically decided at a similar time, a little bit later, but a much bigger entity. Yeah. And so that gave us much more leverage.
I can just imagine for you, probably this was like a aha moment, because in life, sometimes you have this perfect timing, as you just said, and it's rare. But this seems to be one of these occasions.
Yeah. I mean, circularity, we are so late.
Yeah.
I mean, we should have done that 15, 20, whatever years ago. And so we have to catch up.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot. Chris, do you have then a similar project, like an industrial site in San Antonio as well? And, if so, what would that be?
Yes, and it's directly related to earlier I mentioned our deconstruction ordinance, which is focused on single family homes. And we, of course, want to scale that program, but what you need to scale that program in a lot of circularities, you need both the physical infrastructure and you also need the digital infrastructure, like the marketplaces that can help connect. But the physical infrastructure for us, for the built environment, is we need some place to store a lot of these housing materials after we deconstruct them, because the contractor is going to deconstruct it. They don't just want to hold on to that. So you need some place to hold those materials, you need some place to prep them, and our vision is to launch what we call a material innovation center, where it's going to be a large warehouse space where we can store those materials, prep them, and then also co-locate with a few entrepreneurs and actually have a little bit of an innovation lab there in partnerships with the local universities. So we're trying to launch that right now. There is a plot of land in the city that was an old military base that has been converted into what they call Port San Antonio, and it's run by a private enterprise that focuses on scaling some key industries like cybersecurity, advanced robotics. And so now there's a little plot of land that the city's being able to lease for free right now, and there's a small barn there which is serving as the first material innovation center. But we want to raise somewhere about $15 to $20 million to actually get a real new structure there, ideally built with the principles of circularity to create that structure as a lighthouse building, but then also use it as the infrastructure that we need to convince stakeholders we need to invest in more of these, and so show it as the proof of concept and then scale it up and hopefully be able to scale into other cities in the US as well, because this is a pain point all across the US. Lots of cities are trying to figure out how do we keep these materials out of landfill and also solve, a housing crisis in the U.S. where we need millions of more homes built. So it makes no sense to take a material that's right there in landfill and then go through a whole linear process to go get more materials.
Yeah, I think we would agree. And like when you have this Material Innovation Center project in mind, if you have one question you could ask Gabriel, what would be that question be?
For us it's, it sounds like for you had such the fortuitous moment of the city was trying to do it, you're trying to do it as well. For us, a big struggle is we're trying to figure out where are we going to find money for these kinds of projects. So I guess my question would be is how might we approach other foundations or other families that would think the same way you think and have the same vision you have, and trying to get them engaged and on board? Yeah.
Then we have a similar problem. No, seriously. We made the first step, but I know we need more because it needs understanding of a lot of people. And there's what I tell people these days, where I know they have excess capital, just invest 1 to 5% in projects like that. You still make enough returns.
Yeah, exactly.
And just it doesn't harm you. And just be proud of a change. Yeah. Be part of the change. And I also talk to foundations exactly about that. Take your foundation assets and invest them in projects like that to make a change. And you still get returns. You don't get the big returns, but you can make returns.
Yeah. I love that, and this maybe actually just also knowing, that this happened here in Basel is maybe for you also energy to go out in Texas or in the US in general and tell the story how it happened here. It can happen there as well.
Because you have a responsibility.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
When I picture you, your sister and your brother, how does this work in a family? And you mentioned even that your next generation is already on board. Is this like, to come up with such a big and bold vision, is this like a process over many years that kind of grows? Or is this something that you have maybe a barbecue party or a Christmas party and then you say, hey, I have an idea, let's do this. How is the family dynamics in that regard?
I have to give most of these credits. I have to give to my brother, actually, because he started being the environmentalist in the family. Let's say it this way. But maybe the more radical environmentalist, not the pragmatic. And I'm the more pragmatic guy behind. And my sister, we onboarded her on that whole idea, and so that's how we got to that point. Basically, it was not a big discussion. It was a journey.
Wow.
A journey over 20 years, roughly. Yeah.
That's really impressive, and it touches also, it's very touching, I really like, the passion, the vision, you can feel that, when we talk to each other, you can really feel that, it comes from deep within. And so thanks for that. And maybe, if you have one advice, for Chris, for the next step, what would be from your experience now, also with the Franck Areal, with BaselCircular, but maybe in life in general, what would be your advice for Chris, what he can focus on to make that happen?
Basically, we have to do it now. We can't wait. I mean, we can wait that somebody comes and maybe does something, or we just take it in our own hands. I mean, that's basically what we have to do. We make mistakes, which is part of it. But I mean, what you mentioned before, the storage problem, it is a major problem because in the building, you make a drawing, you draw the house, and then you want to have the material there when you want to have it there. But you have to collect it beforehand. And store it and keep it ready and make it available. And it has to fit that thing. So architects have to think the other way around, actually, and work with the resources you have and make them fit. Basically, it's like we all played with Lego. Not with a new bought Lego set, with the pile of Legos we have at home. Build something out of what you have. Not buy a new set, basically.
I like that a lot, and thanks so much for taking time, both of you, and thanks for connecting, building the bridge between Switzerland and the US. And with this, we come to end here today in Basel. You know, for me, I would say, you know, sometimes as a person, we feel a bit alone. We feel like I can do things, but maybe not the big things. But like, I think what we can learn from today is like, you know, you can have big, bold visions and they can come true. And you can be proud of the change. Thank you.